Hello everyone, welcome to this session. In this session we have to learn about the concept of architecture of Android. So in the previous session we are already completed what is Android. So in that we are seeing the Android is not only a mobile platform, it is having a platform to design the applications and it consisting of three different things: key applications, middleware and operating system. And also in that topic we are already covered the history of Android. The history of Android is only having a three main important years when you are observing. So those are 2003, 2005 and 2007. So the next concept is Android versions. So the Android versions are to be presented in a alphabetical order and the starting version of the Android is Angel, Cake and Battenberg, and from that we are having a few version is the last implemented version. And next one is futures. So what are the different futures when we are observed or when we are going with the Android? So open source is one of the best future. Why? Because if it is freely available, then most of the people are interested to use those software. And application framework and storage, media support, different features are already discussed. The today's topic is architecture of Android. So in this is the architecture of Android. This will contains when you are observing 1, 2, 3, 4 layers are to be observed. But these 4 layers are to be categorized into a 5 sections. So the first section is applications, and the second one is application framework, and third one is libraries, and fourth section is Android runtime and Linux kernel. These are the 5 sections in the architecture of Android is having. So when you are observing the applications and application framework, so these are the top 2 layers. The top 2 layers are to be presented in a blue color. Why? Because the blue color indicates that these two are to be developed by using a Java language. These two are to be developed by using a Java language. And the next one is the libraries. The libraries, the color is to be a green. Why? Because the libraries are all to be developed in C or C++ language. The libraries are related to the language as C and C++. This is the third section when you are in the Android architecture. And the fourth section is the Android runtime. So the Android runtime contains the two things. The first one is the core libraries and the second one is the Dolby virtual machine. So these two are also to be developed in the C and Java. So these two are to be for the execution or for compiling of the code, whatever you are written in Java. After that you are adding C or C++ libraries. These two are to be compiled by using a Dolby virtual machine. And it is also contains a core libraries are to be also to be presented in the Android runtime. And the interconnection between these two layers, the first application and application framework and the network, this interconnection is to be possible only by using a JNI. By using one of the interface as JNI. So what is this JNI? It is nothing but a Java network interface. This Java network interface is to be combined the code of Java library, Java code to be presented in the top 2 layers and third layer. This one is responsible for Java network interface, and the last layer. So the last layer is Linux kernel. So this Linux kernel is to be presented in a red color. Why? Because it will contain all the driver classes. These driver classes will help us to add the hardware components to the application. So let us see one by one each section in it. This is a Linux kernel. When you are observing, this is the last layer. So from the bottom, this is the first layer is to be a Linux kernel. So the Linux kernel it contains a different driver classes. So the driver has display driver, CAD driver, and flash memory driver, and binder driver, and keypad driver, Wi-Fi driver, and auto drivers and power management. So these are the different hardware drivers are to be available in your Linux kernel. So this Linux kernel version is 2.6 in the previous, but nowadays we are using 3.6 also for the Linux kernel version. It is the main responsibility, or it will provide services like memory management and process management and security and network stack and driver model. So when you are observing security or the memory management, so what is this memory management? When any application requires a memory, it will automatically free up the unused space of other applications. So the other applications memory is to be given to the present required applications. And process management. So what are the different processes are to be required? Those processes are to be also to be managed within these applications. And the network stack and driver model. So these are the different services provided by the Linux kernel. The Linux kernel is nothing but it is a software. It is the abstraction between the software and the hardware components. So when you are observing the Linux kernel, the input for this Linux kernel is .dex file. So in the previous slide, we have already discussed the top layer before the third layer in this is libraries and Android runtime. So it will take the input from the Android runtime layer. So the Android runtime will compile the code, will compile the Java, will compile the application code and gives a .dex file format code. So this .dex file format code is to be given as input to this file. So whenever it will require in this .dex file, it contains any supporting driver classes. So those supporting driver classes are to be added in this Linux kernel. So the supporting of Linux kernel is nothing but, so after compiling of your application, it will generate a one .dex file. So whenever in this .dex file format, it will require any driver classes. So that driver classes are to be imported from the Linux kernel. So for example, I want to develop a one application like registration form. So the main purpose of the registration form is nothing but to collect the details from the user. So I am collecting a details like name, roll number, phone number, address, contact number, mail ID. So these are the few details I want to collect in the registration form. So for the collection of registration, which driver will be suitable for this? So to type the information, when you are observing, I want to collect the information. So for collecting of information, you require a keypad. So that means keypad driver is to be required. So after compiling of your .dex file, after compiling of your application Java code, so it will require a keypad driver for the registration form. Or otherwise, another example is, I am creating one of the application. That application took images, or it will scan the image. So at that situation, you have to go with a camera application to access your photos or to access your videos. At that situation, you are requiring a camera driver. And I want to connect with a Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. At that situation, you are requiring a Wi-Fi driver. So in this way, based on your application, it will having a different driver classes are to be imported in this Linux kernel. So the Linux kernel is only nothing but a After conversion of .dex file, what are the different supported driver classes? So those different supported driver classes are to be added in this layer so that the application will be fulfilled. So in the next layer is Android runtime. So from the bottom onwards, this is the second section, Android runtime. So the Android runtime is having only two parts. The first one is a core libraries and second one is a Dalvik virtual machine. So Dalvik virtual machine is nothing but compiling of your file, compiling of your application. So compilation of your class files, compilation of your class files into a .dx files. So .dx file is nothing but a Dalvik executable file. Dalvik executable file format. So this is also one of the file format is a .dx. So when you are observing the core libraries is a set of libraries that provides most of the functionalities available in the core libraries of Java programming language. So when you are observing Java programming languages, different Java related files, that means Java HC libraries are to be presented in these core libraries. But when you are seeing Dalvik virtual machine, this is the main part in this Android runtime. To run our application, we have to go with the compile. So that compilation process is to be done by using a DVM. The shortcut for the Dalvik virtual machine is DVM. So when you are observing the DVM is also to be similar to as JVM machine. Already you all know about the JVM, Java virtual machine. So the Java virtual machine will be converted your .class file into a bytecode. So this one is helpful for the same thing. We are using a DVM machine. But what is the difference is nothing but it will reduce us the file after the compilation. So the JVM generated file format is to be large than compared to the DVM generated file format. So that why we are going with the DVM machine. So the DVM is only for the execution of your .class file into a .dx file format, Dalvik executable file format. So this is the Android. So this is the fourth part. This is the third session in this is the library. So different libraries are to be the responsible. So when you are considering the service manager, so the service manager will be the responsible for the different layout designs. So when you are using a different layout design, so how these Windows components are to be arranged. So what are the different layouts? So the layouts are to be responsible for this surface manager. The entire user interface will be the responsibility is to be taken by using Surface Manager, and the media framework is the next library. So this media framework is nothing but it will be responsible for the picture quality. So whatever the media are available, so that media is to be the responsible by using a media framework. The picture quality and picture size, so the media quality, so those things are to be responsible by using a media framework library. So in your application it contains any type of features, the picture quality is to be responsible by the media framework. And in your application, if you are having any database related information, we are going with the SQLite database. While we are going with the SQLite database, different databases are available. So what are the different databases? So RDBMS is one of the database to store the information in the form of a data, and other thing is Oracle. So Oracle is also to be presented, and MySQL. So these three are also to be presented. The information to be stored in the form of a database or to be stored in the form of a table format. Whatever the information, that information is to be stored in a relational database. So when you are having all these databases formats, why we are going with the SQLite database format? Because These three are the heavy weighted databases formats. So when you are using heavy databases, so the memory is also to be wasted for this type of databases. So if your mobile is having a only small amount of memory, so that means your application is also to be in having a small amount, then only the users are interested to use this application. If your application is occupies more amount of space, so the people are not interested to use this application. That's why to reduce the memory, we have to go with the SQLite database. SQLite database is also one of the relational database format, but it is a lightweighted database. That's why we are going with the SQLite database. The entire database related information is to be stored, and that is responsible for this SQLite database. And not only these SQL databases, different things are there presented in your libraries. OpenGL or ES. So what is this OpenGL or ES? What is the main use of this? So the graphics related. So when you are in your application, 3D related graphs. 3D related graphs. So 3D related graphics are to be added or responsibility of the OpenGL or ES library. And the next one is free type. So the free type is main responsible for your font size and font specification. So when you are using your application to display some of the messages like hello Vigyan. So what is the font size of the Vigyan and what is the font size of the hello? So that font specification and what are the different styles of that hello message and the Vigyan message. So that things ought to be responsible for using this free type. And the next one is WebKit. So this WebKit will allow a different type of web browsers. So what are the different type of web browsers are to be available, are to be there? So what are the different types of web browsers are to be there? So Google Chrome is one of the web browsers. So different browsers are to be allowed by using this WebKit. This WebKit is responsible to use these different web browsers. So Google Chrome is one of the web browsers. And another thing is we are having not only the Google Chrome, we are having a Safari is one of the browsers. So the Safari. So in the same way we have to display the different browsers. Those browsers is to be responsible for using the WebKit library. And not only these libraries, these are the 6 libraries, and again not only we are having SGL, SSL and LIDC. So SGL. So what is the full form of SGL? Scalable graphics layer. So as we have already discussed, the graphics related files are to be there in the OpenGL areas. But this one is for 3D graphics, but SGL is responsible for scalable graphics layer. That means only the normal graphics related files are to be presented in this scalable graphics layer. And this one is a secured socket layer. Secured socket layer. So this one is responsible for connection of your Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. So whatever the connections is there, that connection is to be possible by using, is to be verified by using this SSL library. And this one is a LIDC. So these are the all the things. LIDC is also used for libraries regarding your C. These are the all libraries are to be presented in the session, and these libraries will be the responsible for the different parts. So these are the different components in your libraries. And let us go with the next session is application framework. Application framework. From the top it is the second layer. So from the bottom it is the third layer. So the application framework main use is we have to use. It will provide different manager classes. Based on those different manager classes, we can reduce our code. So we are already inbuiltly available. The code is to be presented. Based on the requirement of the user, they have to import those manager classes and use the corresponding methods. That is the main use of this application framework. So whenever you are observing the application framework, the main use is, for example, when you are writing a hello world program, when you want to develop an application to print a hello world message, so it will require nearly more lines of code or more lines of programming is needed. But by using this application framework, it will require or it will reduce the code by using these different manager classes based on the user requirement. So what are those different manager classes? Or nothing but activity manager, window manager, so content provider and view system, package manager, telephone manager, resource manager, location manager and notification manager. These are the different manager classes ought to be available in the application framework. So when you are observing, we have to discuss one by one. So activity manager. So what is this activity manager? So what is the responsibility of this activity manager? When your application is to be considered as is having a different activities. So your application is contains more than one activity. So what is the activity state? So the activity is to be responsible for your life cycle. So nearly the life cycle of an activity is contains 7 states. So those 7 states are, the first one is create, start, resume, restart, pause, stop, destroy. So nearly 7 states of your activity in your life cycle, in your activity. So what is the activity? Any application, what is the user interface of your design? So that user interface is to be called as one activity. So to develop any application, it will contains at least one activity. So one or more activities collection is called as one application. So in that application, so your present activity is to be in a which state in your life cycle. So what is the present state? So your application, your activity position is in a start state, or your activity position is in a resume state, or your activity position is in a restart state. So what is the life cycle? So this activity manager will be the responsible. So what is the position of your activity? What is the position of your activity is to be guided by using this activity manager class. And the next one is window manager. So the window manager is mainly responsible for, so the window is to be presented in your either, so which mode, that orientation is to be guided by using this window manager class. And the content provider. So what is the content provider? So the content is nothing but what are the different views are to be available in your design. So if you are having a text views, or if you are having some buttons, so what are the different things you are having? So that type of content is to be managed by using this content provider class. And the view system is also having a same thing. So the view system is nothing but it will arrange your layout designs. So different views are to be arranged. How these different views are to be managed in this view system. And the next one is package manager and the telephone manager. This telephone manager is responsible for your calls. So if you want to receive a call or if you want to make a call. So those things are to be managed by using this telephone manager. And the resource manager. So what are the different resources are required to develop a application? So those type of resources are available in this resource manager class. And the next one is location manager. So what is the use of this location manager? So to locate one of the mobile, in which position this mobile is to be there, is to be presented. To find out the location of the mobile, we have to go with the location manager. So for example, which applications we are requiring this location manager are nothing but Google Map. So in this Google Map, by using that we have to find out the location. And the notification manager. The last one is notification manager. The notification manager gives you a notifications like your battery is low, or you are getting a messages from WhatsApp, or you are getting a messages from Facebook, or these type of messages, or your mobile is shutting off. this closing of the application. So the type of notifications related information is to be the responsible for this notification manager class. So in this way, as per the requirement of the user, we have to go with these different application framework manager classes. So in your application, you are having a thing like, if you want to find out the location of that particular mobile, so you have to go with the location manager class, import this location manager class and create an object of the location manager class, as L is my object. L is my object of the location manager class. And how to get the location? We have to call a method like get location. So this is the one of the method. So first of all, we have to call the object of the particular manager class. After that, we have to call a method get location. So then only we have to get the location of that particular mobile. So notification managers are also same thing. So this all the manager classes will help us to reduce the coding. Why? Because this code is already implemented. We have to just create those objects and use those corresponding already available methods. That's why we are using this application framework is the main important thing, main important part in the architecture of Android. So these manager classes are all to be developed by using a language is Java. These all manager classes are to be developed in the Java. That's why this interface is to be represented in a blue color. This interface is to be represented in a blue color. So that's all for the application framework. And the next one is applications. So what is this application layer contains? So this application layer will contain all the applications those are to be developed. This is like a pre-installed application. So the applications are already created. So those applications are to be available in your Play Store. So that whatever the developed applications are there in the, so that applications are to be presented in this application layer. So this is the one of the topmost layer presented. So the applications presented in this are, the first one is a home, contacts, phone, and the next one is a browser. So different applications, whatever the different applications, those are to be already developed and waiting for installation. That applications are to be presented in these applications. So always I want to develop one of the application like registration form. So after completing of all these steps, what are the different steps? Application framework, libraries, core libraries, DVM, and Linux kernel. After completion of all these layers, the application is to be developed. But the after developing of application, you have to present in your Play Store. So at that part, you are having this application layer. So the registration form application is to be presented in this layer. So this layer is also having a blue color. That means we have to write a code as Java. So these are the 4 different layers in the architecture of Android will help us to develop a application. So let us see. So just let us see the architecture of Android. So these are the 4 different parts of your architecture of Android. Linux kernel, libraries, application framework, applications. But again, this second layer from the bottom onwards, this libraries is to be partitioned into a libraries and Android runtime. Libraries and Android runtime. So totally you are having a 5 sections. The architecture of Android is having a 4 layers, but these 4 layers are to be partitioned into a 5 sections. So we are developing a contacts application. So the contacts. So when you want to develop a contacts application. So what is the contacts application main requirement? So it is used to telephone. Telephone is responsible for the manager class. So in that application framework, we are requiring a telephone manager. So after that, based on the user requirement, we are created the contacts application. And in that, what is that? To save our contacts. To save our contacts, we are requiring a SQLite database. because it is a relational database. So the contacts names, numbers and mail IDs. So if you any other person are having a more than one contact, that one is also to be stored in a row and column format. So that's why we are going with the SQLite relational database. So after completion of all this, that means we are requiring a telephone manager and we are requiring a SQLite, and along with that the user can write some of the code based on the requirement. So after completion of all the code, we have to run the application. We have to compile and run. So that compilation process will be done in the Dolly virtual machine. So the application code is to be compiled and it will generate one of the file format as .dx file. .dx file format, the information is to be generated. But this is not the completion. So after the completion of .dx file, we are requiring a drivers corresponding to that. So what are the corresponding drivers? When we want to save the number, so which one is to be important? We want to type the number or we want to type the information. So at that situation, we are requiring a keypad driver. To save our contact, we have to type the information in the application. So at that situation, we are requiring a keypad driver. So in the same way, to display the information, we are requiring a display driver. So how the contacts are to be displayed. So in the same way, if the application is having any one of the drivers related, so those type of drivers are to be given in this application. So after the completion of all these three steps, the application will be presented in this application layer, that is the topmost layer in your Android architecture. To develop any application, we are requiring all these phases, all these sections. This is the architecture of Android. So let us go with this assignment in the architecture of Android. So the first one is explain the DVM. So what is the full form of DVM? Dolby virtual machine. So that means it works as JVM and compile the application and gives a .dx file format, which is in a lightweight format. And the next question is explain the concept of application framework. So what is the use of this application framework? It will contain different manager classes based on the different things. Based on the user specification, we have to go with the different managers. So I want to find out the activity present position. So I want to find out, or I want to go back to the previous activity. That means we have to navigate between the activities. So that navigation is also to be responsible by activity manager. Or we have to know about the location. So location manager will be responsible. So different manager classes will be provided in the application framework. Those are all to be developed. We have to only focus on modifying the corresponding based on the user requirement. And the next thing is discuss about the some of the libraries. So different libraries are available in this layer. SSL, SGL for the graphics, SQLite for the database creation, for storing of information in the form of a relational database. So different things are to be there in the libraries. So from that, discuss any some of these libraries. And the next one is discuss in detail about the different manager classes available in architecture of Android. So the manager classes, when you are observing, the manager classes are already available in application framework. So from that, list out any 5. And the next one is draw the architecture of Android. So the architecture of Android is the main important thing. We have to draw this architecture. This is the assignment questions for this architecture of Android. Thank you all.